Join me on the red carpet as we have a VIP look at the scenery coming in the Silver Screens pack for Planet Coaster 2. Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome to our scenery overview for the Silver Screens pack for Planet Coaster 2. This is about a day after everyone else's videos came out, but I think a day before the pack comes out for everybody else. Thank you as always to Frontier for letting me have early access for this. Unfortunately I was actually on vacation during the early access period, so I'm a little behind everybody else. I know a lot of people expect these videos from me. I always like to lay out all the pieces like this. It gives me a real good grounding for the pack as well, so even though I'm not sort of first out the post on this one, I still wanted to go over all of it and take a look at it with you all. First of all, we have Butterworth P. Popcorn Boy. I'm not too sure what his name is. I actually think design-wise, he looks fantastic. My only real issue with him is he's very niche. Like, he is a director with a popcorn head, and I don't think there's really anything else you can do with him other than use him in a very specific movies-style park. I think a lot of the scenery in this pack is very useful for lots of different themes. The Art Deco stuff, while still looking nice and themed Art Deco, I think is really well broken down and is going to be very useful for lots of different stuff. But as far as Popcorn Head's director goes, he's niche, but you know, he looks cool. Okay, we've got a lot to cover here because this is basically two DLCs in one. As far as the scenery is concerned, we have the new Art Deco theme, the silver screen theme itself, and all of that comes with. And then we have a return of the majority of the studio's theme from Planet Coaster 1, and both of them together make this big old movie pack. So I'm going to try and keep them separate. There's some stuff that probably cuts across, like they're not labeled exactly separately, but anyway, we'll see how we go. We start off as always with the path extras. So we have a six chair table here, and the bench and a trash can. Then there's also the studio trash can returning as well. I like these as a design point of view. I think they're maybe a little too stylized. This, for instance, I don't really see myself using. The bench I don't mind so much. The trash can I don't mind so much. And there's also a selection of fences as well. So there's this one with an open section, and then here with like a sort of terracotta tile in between, and then there's a smaller version as well. These are a little long, they might be tricky to use. I do quite like the smaller one, and in the right spot they're going to be good. I think these are fantastic. I've already been making these out of various pieces and rope, so I'm looking forward to going back and swapping them out for these because they're just a much nicer version of what we've got there. And there's a lamppost, which is three pieces, so the two lights here is one, the tower main section is one, and the base pillar is one, and then there's also a separate wall lamp for them. I like these, again, very Art Deco, but I think can work. I'm starting to work on a sort of steampunk area, and I think a lot of this stuff, within reason, can work there with a bit more work, just to sort of take it slightly away from that Art Deco, and I like it a lot. Same with the lights. We have three wall lights, two smaller ones and a larger one. And then this actually classes as a light. This is three pieces, so the piece here at the top is one, this middle section is one, and the base piece is one. So it's a column, it's a wall sort of, I can't think what's the word when there's a piece that goes like a, no, I can't think of the word I'm thinking of. Anyway, you know, nice Art Deco pieces there, and there's one of the wall sections that we'll look at in a moment. The return of both chain link fence and regular panel fence from the Studios pack. This is going to be a very welcome return for a lot of people. We actually have some pretty good chain link fence in the game already from the base version of Planet Coaster 2 that I actually think is a little nicer than this now. You know, still nice to have options, I guess, but you know, the one we have in the game I think is already a little better. We have a lovely gold statue of the Popcorn Boy. We have this is all one piece, this stand that can go over any of the sort of table shops in the game, including the 5 new ones that come with the free update that comes alongside this. There's a nice wheel that is separate to it, and then this is a separate popcorn piece, and then also this is actually a plush. It doesn't really look very plushy, but this is a plush of the mascot as well, separate. This is amazing. We need a plush every single time, Frontier. If there's a new mascot, there needs to be a plush to go with it. There also should be a t-shirt to go with it, a mug to go with it. We need that stuff to flesh out gift shops. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point with things like that, but you know, this is absolutely awesome to see. And then, as you can hear from the explosions and the bings and bangs around us, all of the animatronics and studio stuff is returning from the studio pack. It is a direct port, which means it looks a little ropey, honestly, compared to the new stuff. You know, if you look at the fidelity here compared to it, you know, it's all a bit choppy. The textures, they seem to have got a lot better with textures as well. It's not just the actual sort of polygon count of the model. So how useful this sort of stuff is going to be for you really comes down to your tolerance for that sort of the looking less good, honestly. I've tried to use some of the older pirate stuff in Testudo, in Meanderville, and it does kind of stick out a little bit like a sore thumb. So it is going to be something that's going to be up to you as to whether or not this stuff is useful. One thing I will say, though, I'm just going to have to come in. This thing is driving me insane. For some of the smaller pieces that we use a lot for backstage stuff, I don't think it matters too much that the fidelity isn't quite there. And also, I think a lot of this stuff, so things like these cardboard boxes and what have you, are going to be even more useful now due to scaling. The fact that we can actually bring these down into like realistic cardboard box sizes is fantastic, along with things like cables, lots of returning lights. This stuff is very good. We do have some of this in the game already, but it's a little bit more stylized as part of the aquatic set, whereas this is a little bit more utilitarian, and I think is a really good shift. And again, that fidelity doesn't matter too much, because more than likely you're going to probably bring it down to a more realistic size anyway. So a lot of this stuff is really useful to return. Things like pallets, things like these, like we heard that just sort of making a right noise there, but if you just place that down, it's going to give you a real nice manhole cover. Even things like this, you know, I had to make one of these out of 50 pieces for the face painting stand. I'm going to be able to come in and reuse that. The hydrants, you know, all these little things. If you're making them anyway out of art shapes, going back in and replacing them with these, shrinking them down 10% or so is going to help with the fidelity. The flight cases, the toxic barrels and the newspaper, really useful stuff if you've got a more of a modern build, if you're doing like a race through the city type ride, all of that sort of stuff. Is going to come in real handy here. I'm a big fan of all of this sort of stuff returning alongside new stuff that we'll get to in a moment. I think it's a really good way of doing it. We have also all of the cars returning. So there was 2 regular cars here. There's a little minibus. There's some municipality stuff, some helicopters. I think the helicopters I don't really find very useful, honestly. That's a very specific build you're looking for to add one of those, but the cars are great. There is a version of each of the new track ride cars as well. Because of the 6 seats, I don't think you're going to be putting these down into car parking lots, but you might use them as like photo spots or outside the ride to show people what the ride looks like on the inside, that kind of thing. And then also like tanks, trucks, they all come with separate wheels that I haven't added on here for the sake of it. And all of these also come with 2 or 3 versions of these things racing around as well. This is all just a direct port from the Studios pack. You will find these useful or you won't. I don't think I ever really used any of this sort of stuff, but if you want to build like a cool stunt show, these are going to come in really handy. If you want to build like a Jaws ride, the sharks are going to come in really handy. They still look pretty good. Even things like this, these crates returning, the shipping containers returning, the power generator returning, the dumpster. Obviously, it's animated here, but if we knock on these to deactivate them, they just make great backstage pieces. So really, you'll know whether this stuff is useful to you. I don't necessarily see myself diving in with a new Studios park right now, because I think a lot of the Art Deco stuff I'm going to find useful in Meanderville, and I'm really sort of focusing on that single park right now. But you'll know whether or not this sort of stuff is useful to you, including the return of all of the animatronics. Again, the fidelity isn't fantastic on these, but they're also a little big, so you're probably going to want to bring these down to about 80%, maybe 90%. I'd have to put them next to a stone guest. Let's have a look what they look like next to a stone guest. Stone Jeep. There we go. Yeah. So actually, we're going to bring them down there. So you're probably going to look at putting them about 85%, maybe. Oh, no, 85 is too small, isn't it? 88. 90 it is then. I suppose he's just a little. Oh, we were already. Oh, no, ignore me. There we go. He was already. He was shrunk into the ground. That was the problem. 85. Yeah, about 85% on those to get them to guest size, and at that point the fidelity looks a little bit better because as you squish this stuff down, it's just going to look a bit better. They all have sticks up their butts. At this point, I think we need to just start moaning about this. It's just something we have to learn to live with. But these are great for sticking them behind fake stores, sticking them in fake midway, guest entrances, that kind of thing. We've got, I think this is classed as archaeologist, yeah. And then there's like a businessman guy, a knight, a pirate, a policeman, a spaceman, a cowboy, and then all of those again in female as well. I haven't placed them all out, and I put the sitting and standing ones down because they're most likely the ones I'm going to be using for this kind of for the kind of thing I do with them. But there's also, you know, falling, shooting, fighting, all of that kind of stuff, crouching down as well. So good for dark rides, you know, fleshing out the ones we have already. But for me personally, I think I'm most likely going to be using these to have them at ride entrances, fake stalls, that kind of thing is where I'm going to find the most use out of them, I think. A few other bits and bobs then. We have 5 water towers in the game. Technically there is a nice plain metal one. This is 2 separate parts, the top and the bottom. There is an animated one that matches the one from the Western set. That was ported over. Then we have this new nice big water tower and the 3 different tops. One is a tank, and then there's a King Coaster and a Queen Splash. I think they're really nice. I can see maybe using one of these just as a realistic thing in a regular park. You know, these sort of places often will have a water tower just to help with pressure, but obviously they can also be used as like a centerpiece for a studios park. The return of these doors are great as well. I'm a big fan of these coming back in because not only are they nice and plain, you can also add images to them, so you can technically you know, work on theming these. You can add like a wood texture. These are great for dark rides moving through to sections. I'm glad to see these return, even this big one here, especially with scaling and being able to deactivate it. I think you'll find you use these sort of stuff a lot on backstage buildings, even if you're not into the studios theme. We also have a return of these. These come with the these go as part of the Kuka arm to create internal videos, such as, let me try and think of an example. What is it? The Hogwarts, the Forbidden Journey, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey uses these a lot, and a few others. Yeah, these are good to see. Again, if you want to build the Kuka arm, you're going to be wanting to use these. We did a lot with these in the Subnautica ride in Planet Coaster 1 at Studios Park. Whether or not we get to something like this again, I don't know. This sort of ride feed system would absolutely work in Meanderville, but I don't know right now where it would go. But it's nice to see the return. Also, we have this. I think originally this was 2 parts, and they split it into 2. And I don't remember this being a screen, but this time it is. So I thought I'd place this down to show you. So there's the regular sort of green screen, I guess, but you can now add an image to it. So I thought I'd put it down with an image on it, and then that's just a regular screen next to it. So you can see that it's much more faded, kind of has the colour shine through a little bit, but you can still have the bit of sort of taut fabric. Might be useful, depending on what you're doing with it. Rather than just using the perfect screen, you might want something that's a little bit more that you can sort of see the worn edges kind of thing. Colorable panels returning, both a non-lit and a lit version. These can be very useful, and I'm pretty sure you can trigger the changing of the color of these, so these are really useful for dark rides. And that big subway piece coming back as well. Some new stuff then. We have this red carpet. There's 4 different pieces you can use to make a red carpet. I think this is really quite nice, and even though it does say red, it obviously is recolorable. There's a nice texture on that. I can see people using that a lot for various carpet uses, haunted houses, that kind of thing. They're gonna have a lot of use for these. These pieces are called fountain pieces. Can't find a fountain in the game built up with them, but a lot of the Art Deco stuff, you'll notice that it's quite modular. There's a few pieces that aren't, that we'll get to, but a lot of the Art Deco stuff is really quite modular. So I'm just sort of placing them down in situ like this because really these are Lego pieces. You know, these are going to be great for walls, fences, trims, fountains, all pavements, all kind of stuff. These are going to be useful for, and they're all recolorable. There's to have nice textures on them, lots of different color options. You know, you're just going to get a lot of use out of all of these. There's also a full set of lit up letters. I've just placed down the Hello You here, of course, but these are really nice. These aren't a port from Planet Coaster 1. We did get a set of letters like this in the vintage pack, I believe, but this is actually a new set based on the 3D font that we have in Planet Coaster 2. So you'll notice the slight curved edges. So it's the same font, but now it light up. The fact that it's the same font is very useful because you're going to be able to do things where you use both of them, and they'll all line up neat, and that's pretty good. It's nice to see. Okay, wall sets then. There are 2 new wall sets, and then sort of 2 or 3 returning ones and a few extra pieces as well. These are really nice. There was a post on Planet Coaster subreddit the other day asking about what wall sets would you still like to have in the game, where do we feel like we're missing, and I said we need more tile sets. We need some nicer tile options, and now we have these are really awesome. There's a nice glossy tile, and then what I kind of suppose looks a little bit like a subway brick, but it's horizontal rather than vertical. Again, great texture on these. Coloring options are pretty good. With this one, I think I would still prefer the coloring options to be more like the castle brick, where it just randomly picks out a handful of them, because I think being able to randomly make it much more differentiated across the panel rather than plain is good. Whereas here, where you can just sort of choose selections, I find is a little less useful. Here is the regular one, and then here are the colors you can change on it. So it's neat, but I think I would rather see sort of this top color here actually change this, you know, randomly. But still, 2 nice sets, and obviously they're fully fleshed out. We also have these rounder corners. Do we always get these? This seems new to me, but maybe not. And then roof pieces. There isn't a roof set in the game, in the pack, sorry, which I find kind of interesting, but then I suppose most of the buildings in a sort of studio set will be flat buildings where the wall has a trim around the top rather than a roof. But yeah, interesting to see no roof set, just these flat versions of the walls. But we do have a lot of trim pieces that we'll look at in a moment. And then these, I believe... Oh, and then there's also this set that sort of matches that. That's the set of trim. That's really quite nice as well. Might work well for curbs, little steps down, as well as just sort of detail on the walls. And then, yes, I think these are returning. So here we have some panel pieces, a couple of broken pieces to go with them. These are a plaster wall, as are these as well, and these will work with the plaster that's in the base game. So this is nice to see lots of new options. Little pieces like curves like this. Currently that would take, you know, 8 pieces rotated round to get that sort of curve, so things like this are very welcome. A couple of nice longer pieces as well. These larger trim pieces from the Studios pack return. Again, these being scalable will make them much more useful, I think. And then we have a load of new trim pieces as well. These are great. I think the textures on these are really quite attractive. I like the sort of faded edge to them. Again, super useful for wall trims, fountains, curbs. Lot of useful stuff here. This one is really nice as well with the metal top. I can just see myself using all of this a lot. And obviously there's an Art Deco vibe to it, but I think it'll work in lots of different spaces. A couple of these glossy walls returning from Studios pack alongside the 2 sort of store walls, I guess you could call them, a more modern one and a more original one. You can use these sparingly, I think. I think if you start building loads of buildings out of these, it'll look quite clunky, but these are nice to see make a return. This is a nice sort of frosted glass that we don't really have anywhere else. Shame that it has the frame around it. Will make it a little bit more limited to use. But yeah, these are pretty useful overall, as are these pavement pieces returning. Use these a lot in the first game. Probably can see myself using them again here. Again, the definition isn't quite there, but with something like this, I don't think it will matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Once it's in place, it'll probably look fine. All right. Obviously, you need to check out Mineral's Column Watch for a thorough layout of all of the columns in the game, but this probably was an easy video for him because there's a lot of columns in the game. Now we have, this is a 4-piece here with a beautiful obelisk on top. Again, this is all broken down into some nice Art Deco pieces. And then we have all of these just individual pieces. This is the sort of stuff I really love. I know it's not flashy. I know it's not the sort of thing they're going to put on the thumbnail and say, look at all of these new stone pieces. But really, if you build in my sort of style, in that sort of really trying to build outside of the in-game themes and trying to get as much detail in there as possible, these are the pieces you come back to and use time and time again. You know, before we had this piece, this would have been a dozen or so plaster pieces or windows as walls or something like that. These curve pieces, you know, they just bring the piece count down, and the texture on them is really quite nice. And again, all of this sort of stuff is recolorable, and it takes color pretty nicely. Even the colors you wouldn't expect it, you know, blues and stuff. I think they sit on it real nice. Yeah. This is great. This is really good Planet Coaster 2 stuff. These are returning from Planet Coaster 1, the Studios Pack, and as you can see, the detail just isn't there anymore. And also, they give it all twice, because in the original game we didn't have scaling. So, you know, I feel like, not that I necessarily look at the scenery number in these packs and say, oh wow, 600 pieces or 700 pieces, because really, the number doesn't really matter, it's how good each piece is. But I do feel like these maybe just inflate that number a little bit, and it sort of shows that they are just kind of porting the set over and not necessarily looking at it as an expansion to Planet Coaster 2. It's tricky, right? Because there's no need for these, because the ones we have in the game look better. But I suppose these probably tile better than the ones we have in the game, and really there's no reason not to give them to us, because it's options. And I wonder if, you know, we had the Studios Pack return without these, would there be people say, oh, I was really waiting for that one chain link fence? I think also, for instance, we had these 5 pieces of glass return, which I don't think came with Studios Pack. I think they came alongside a free update around the same sort of time. But obviously the glass we have in the game is much better than these. These are recolorable, but we can't change the opacity. You know, the stuff we have already, there was no real need to add these, other than, you know, it's just part of the Studios Pack. They probably can't win either way. I'm sitting here saying there was no need for this, but if they weren't there, somebody would be like, well, why haven't we got those 5 glass pieces? I really wanted those. So, you know, they probably can't win. I shouldn't moan so much. What else we got? Yeah, so there's some lovely pillars. This is all super useful. This is going to be used so much. It's awesome. These are classed as archways, although for the most part they are just more pillars. Again, nice. These would be nice if these were slightly more modular, but for the most part these are pretty nice. This is a lovely piece here. Again, very Art Deco, but, you know, hotels, cinemas, lots of places for these. Nice archway here as well. Again, nice if it was slightly more modular, but overall pretty good. We then have this selection of glass wall. It's not really a wall set. These are the 7 pieces here for it. The nice thing about these is in the daytime it has a nice reflective glass, but then at night time it will light up if you wish it to. So we can do something like that. So you can see these working really well for windows, but then also you can just say deactivated and it'll just stay as a glass panel. So this is exactly the sort of thing we need in the game, I think. Just nice generic stuff that is clearly part of a theme. You know, this is very Art Deco-y. But it's a single piece. We can use it as glass, we can use it as a light, we can adjust that, we can change how it works. The same with all of these. They have a nice glass texture on them, shiny glass texture on them in the daytime. In the nighttime they light up. This is really what we should be seeing from doors and windows in the game at this point. The only thing I really want to see is another item where it's glass, because I would like to be able to use them. And all of these double doors, there should be separate options for them as well, so we can have them permanently open. All of these double doors, they're just single doors. We can't really do much with them other than use them on facades. This one, I got excited when I saw it. I was like, oh, that looks great. It looks like one half of a door. You swing it around, that's the other side. So it's actually a single door. But imagine if we had a flipped version of this. We can have double doors that stay open. Imagine if this semicircle then here was glass. It would just be so much more useful for all of the people who do interiors, which is clearly something that they want us to do in the game. They're giving us gift shops, they're giving us restaurants, they're giving us all of these things to go indoors. We really should have the doors and windows to go alongside them. So yeah, other than that, they are quite nice. Some of them are a little plainer, like I can see this one, being used a lot of the place. The other ones are clearly very sort of Art Deco themed, but they're nicely done, and I can see some use of them in either studios or, I think they could work in steampunk, fantastical worlds. You want to build something like Oz, like Emerald City. I can see all of this sort of stuff working really well too. Windows are, again, quite useful. Some of the plainer ones, some a little bit more themed. This porthole one is nice. One is nice. This little piece is nice. There's just a single King Coaster dude there. And then we have, this is a nice canopy piece. A couple of larger windows. Or they would work as pillars as well. There's a base for them, and then there's this as well. I've seen a few people already. I tried not to watch too much content while I was away about this because I like to have fresh eyes on this, but one thing I did see Mineral do was instantly go one of these here, fling it around, and just sort of tick it in so it matches, and you've got a real nice planter. That is really lovely, especially with some hedges in there. I completely agree with him that I think that will look awesome. Signage, I think, is probably one of the weaker parts of this pack there. These are basically the signs, these large ones. Now, obviously, these are really great fun if you want to build a cinema. I am planning to add a cinema to Meanderville, and I do think one of these could work. But they're very stylized. That's a cinema and nothing really else, or like a cinema themed ride, I suppose. The return of some windows from Studios Pack as well. I think with scaling now, these actually become quite useful. They were way too big originally, but now with scaling, I can actually see those being used quite a bit. There's a set here of them that break. Returning of the exterior stairs there, and then all these return from Studios as well. This is a nice set of detailing. It's just called Art Deco trim, I think. Art Deco stucco wall trim. But overall, a nice useful set. Quite like this wall, this flat piece here as a fan. This will be good for capping off these kind of areas, but also that's just going to make nice sort of detail for walls and stuff for signage. I like that too. A single banner, which looks nice. I liked how in Parade's pack we had 4 or 5 of these. I think we would have liked to see more there. And then again, just more sort of wall detail pieces. These pieces here are quite specific to the film sort of theme, maybe with some more of the Parade's pack wrought iron around them. The film strip would disappear a little and it would just start to look a little bit more like detail. But these ones, even though they're clearly film strip, I think these could actually work in a lot of places just as a nice piece of trim as well. And we like that as well. Nice sort of big diner sign. A little bit stylized, but if you've got a spot for it, it is very nice. And then we see returning canopy and signage from Studios Pack, a new canopy for silver screen, a big clapperboard. These I'm very happy to see return because these are also billboards, so we can come in and add stuff to those nice and generically. These are very useful. We can theme them up with bits of trim around the top and add our own logos to them. And then as far as silver screen signage goes, we just have these 6 signs. I think these are really great fun. Movie posters. This one's clearly Jaws. I'm sure Godzilla. But using the in-game stuff, I really love these, and I think these are especially great for console players who aren't able to install their own images. I probably will use these in a cinema build, perhaps. But really, I was kind of hoping for something in between those and these, like a few more sort of signage around this size, really, would have been nice, because they're the ones that you use more and more. And one thing I would have really loved, let's just knock it to nighttime so you can see, these beautiful neon strips that we have here. I was really hoping that would be a set of those individually, because they have such a great glow, and if these were all individual, we could have done some really fun stuff with them. But overall, you can see how this stuff lights up real nicely. And I think if you're building with this set, you're going to have some real great looking skylines at night using them. All of the special effects return from the Studios pack. Again, you'll know if you're going to use these or not, depending on how themed your rides are going to be. There's dust, a water one, newspaper flapping around. I think out of everything, these ones probably will be the most useful for me. If you look at something like Monsters Unchained at Universal, they use lights to create this sort of stuff a lot, so they're going to be useful. Big explosions, plasma explosions, you know whether these are useful for you. They're probably not really that useful for me, but it's nice to see them return. And we'll head back down here as a bit of an overview while we talk about the pack. The lights return from studios. For some reason, you can see them in the nighttime. They create this like antimatter beam. I don't know if that's my graphics card or one of my settings. I'll have to go and see if other people are having that issue. Hopefully that gets patched out. I have noticed a few pieces in this early build version that work a little funky. Some of the normals are the wrong way round and things like that. A few pieces misnamed. So hopefully that all sort of gets picked up and dealt with. I'll probably fly over an email to Frontier about that today. Hopefully they're cleaned up before you get hold of it. I think, honestly, as far as scenery goes, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. The studio's stuff is showing its age at this point, but the Art Deco stuff is very useful as a builder, but maybe out of the box, it's not going to be super useful outside of a studio's theme. I really do think the selling point of this pack is the rides. Now, I don't cover the rides in these videos because I'm not really an expert on them, and I'd rather you go and listen to somebody who knows more about them. These are always scenery overviews, but I actually do think that the ride lineup for the Silver Screens pack is fantastic and is really its selling point. As useful as a lot of these pieces are, the fact that we're getting the little Dumbo ride, the cinema, I think is going to be very useful. The Danse Macabre, the motion stage, I think is not incredibly well implemented with the big stairs going up to it, but I still think you can do some really awesome stuff. The test track car ride I think is great. The fly coaster I think is great. I really do think the pack from a rides point of view is an absolute no-brainer, and then you're going to get a lot of really great scenery alongside it. But as far as scenery goes, I don't think this is the strongest pack. I would probably put it under both Parades and Sorcery for me. I think it's probably better than Toy Box, just because I found Toy Box so niche and not something I was really looking forward to building with. So overall, I would give this a real sort of solid 7.5 out of 10 as far as scenery goes, but that's the ride packs are going to bump that up to sort of like an 8 or 9, because I really do think they are a really fantastic selection of rides. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down below. Until the next one, be good.